I know you would like to some kind of way extract something out of this bottle, all right, that's not there. It's not there. You all speculate and create things, and then you want people to respond to it. So you can ask the bottle, but don't ask me.
Mitchell, why do all the trees in Louisiana lean north?
Why, Clint?
Because Arkansas sucks.
Ayo!
You're listening to Ask the Bottle, an SEC fan cast. My name is Clint Childers. His name is Mitch Davis, the Georgia Peach. Write to us at askthebottlecast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Bottlecast. Listen and subscribe to us on iTunes and on SoundCloud. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes if you wouldn't mind. That would be sick. Leave us leave some comments on SoundCloud if you want to.
Oh yeah, that's a thing.
I always forget that they have SoundCloud comments.
Yeah, for sure.
Mitchell, how are you after week 8?
I'm good, man. You know, it was a Georgia bye, so as a fan, I was, kind of happy. But it was kind of a bit of a snoozer of a week. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it was not a great. If you had to pick, what was the best SEC game?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Was there a good SEC game?
I mean, on the East, with all the East games, they were blowouts.
The West games were blowouts.
And the West games were blowouts. Yeah. So what? I don't know. I mean, there were some good non-conference games. Sort of, kind of. Shout out to Oklahoma State. Even though the game was mega boring, it was a big win.
Yeah, well, we will get into those real quick. Let's go ahead and talk about that game then. Let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Yeah, number 10 Oklahoma State pays a visit to Austin, Texas, and beats the Longhorns 13-10. Yeah, you said it right. This game was boring. Mm-hmm. When Oklahoma State only scores one touchdown, they are way less fun to watch.
That's so true.
Let me tell you. After a pair of touchdowns and a pair of field goals, Texas and Oklahoma State went into overtime, tied 10-10. And if you would have told me that'd been the outcome of this game, like at the end of regulation, I wouldn't have believed you. Mm-hmm. But yet there it was. Okie State scored a field goal on their possession in overtime, and Texas threw a pick on theirs. So Cowboys win.
That'll do it. That's yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing really else much to say about this game. It was
pretty much it.
It was just kind of defense, I guess, or bad offense.
Yeah, I mean, it's smart just going for the points there for Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Because they got the ball first, right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they kicked a field goal, and then
it's pretty rare that you end up doing that. I mean, especially given the history of these two programs. I know Texas has struggled late, but if you told me, hey, in 2017, Oklahoma State's going to take Texas into overtime and they're going to win after getting the ball first with a field goal, I would have been like, that's baloney.
Well, let's move on to another out-of-conference game here. Number 25, Memphis, went to Houston, beat the Houston Cougars 42-38. This game, on the other hand, was really fun.
Yeah, total opposite.
Yeah, Memphis came back from 17 down to make this game a classic shootout. Houston's offense really showed up and made this a game to begin with. But in the first quarter, they looked like they might run away with it. But future Arkansas head coach Mike Norvell made some crucial halftime adjustments, though, and gave Memphis the victory. Yeah, there's nothing really much to say, but halftime adjustments were key in this game for Memphis.
Yeah, man, I like Memphis. They can put up a lot of points. They shellacked Connecticut with 70, I think, a couple weeks ago, and they're an exciting team, man. Yeah, I could definitely see that coaching change happening in a way.
Please.
At least him going somewhere.
Justin Fuente, who's now at Virginia Tech, was head coach of Memphis for a long time, and he made them the incredible team that they are. Mm-hmm. But Mike Norvell's really been able to take what he did and continue that. So that says a lot to me about what kind of coach he is. So I hope that, maybe he might have a future at Arkansas.
Yeah, hey, you never know.
Well, moving right along. Did you watch any of the Central Florida Navy game?
I hit up some highlights, but I didn't get a chance to sit down and watch it.
If any of our fans out there are some some G5 fans. I know I like some mid-major schools. There's some fun football out there. Number 20 UCF rolls into Annapolis and beats Navy 31-21. This game was full of offense. I really enjoyed it. Both of these teams are super, super fun to watch. This was anyone's game until the very last touchdown. Both offenses were firing, but they both made some costly mistakes. A couple of turnovers on each side. Just real quickly, down 24-21 in the fourth, Navy made a timely interception to get the ball back, but UCF blew up a play in the backfield and forced a fumble, and they'd go down and score, making it 31-21, and Navy just couldn't overcome the deficit. Ken Neomatalolo is a great coach over at Navy. I don't know if he is planning on leaving anytime soon. I don't know why he would. He runs a great offense there. But if you want to coach in the SEC, man,
There's some spots.
bring the option to the SEC. I'd love to see it. Maybe
No
at Ole
doubt.
Miss.
Hey, yeah, that's true.
Get those receivers involved.
Plus, Shea being gone. Why not?
Oh yeah, more on that later too.
No joke. But yeah, I kind of had Navy in this game despite UCF being ranked. But it was a good one, like you said.
Moving right along, let's kind of blow through these just a couple real quick. Number 9, Oklahoma keeps it pretty close with Kansas State.
Yeah.
Just about drops one. They ended up winning over the Wildcats 42-35, but it took a last-second fourth quarter drive to make it happen. This was the best game of the day to me.
I agree.
Yeah, KSU jumps out to a big lead, but Baker Mayfield and the Oklahoma offense ended up having a great second half. They scored a touchdown with 7 seconds left in the game to go up 42-35 and win the game. This is just another one of those like Bill Snyder random good games.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like where he just kind of scares somebody.
Like, oh no, there's something left in the tank.
Something left in the tank. Yeah. Well, it was an incredible game.
No doubt.
And to finish up our nationwide segment, let's talk real quick about the playoff implications of this game. This game was boring. All right, it was number 11 USC falls to number 13 Notre Dame in South Bend, 49-14. The play of this game is actually not great. I mean, it was just Notre Dame ran away with it from the very beginning to the very end. It was never a question. But where this game matters is in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
This really hurts the Pac-12, big time, and it makes Notre Dame look really good to the committee.
You're right.
Could we see Notre Dame in the playoff?
After that Georgia game, no. And I feel like it would take a Georgia loss ultimately, but I think they have a bid. I could see them being kind of outside looking in team. To be honest with you, that's sort of my end of year projection. What do you think?
I think it's very possible. I do agree with you. I think if Georgia, especially if Georgia ends up winning out, and especially if they end up beating Bama in the championship game.
Whoa, that'd be insane.
But that Georgia loss looks good because Georgia's good, right? They're unbeaten.
It's true. It's not like you're right.
But on the flip side, that makes Georgia look really good as well.
It's true. It's true. So that's why number 5, if they win out, outside looking in, is sort of where my head is at. But I agree with a Georgia loss. It would be fascinating if Notre Dame wins out and Georgia gets beat by Bama in the SEC championship. That would be a fascinating scenario.
Hey, rematch in the playoffs?
Or just, duking it out to get in there. Anyway, but yeah, I do think, Georgia has the edge in that sense. Not that it comes down to those two teams, but if it did, it'd be interesting. But yeah, man, I mean, it certainly gives Notre Dame a case when I had maybe a little bias kind of written them off a bit.
Well, I don't blame you. The Notre Dames of years past, especially since the college football playoff have been a thing, have always found a way to screw it up. Mm-hmm. So I don't really blame you for that, but they could be a different team this year.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Well, let's move on to the excitement of the SEC.
Barn burners galore.
You want to go east or you want to go west to start today?
If you want a little break on the voice, I can start with the east.
Let's go east.
All right. I'm just going to start with Missouri, Idaho. Why not?
Starting off strong.
Feeling good. I'll keep the Bama fans in suspense. We'll talk about Bama last.
You said no one would watch this game.
And I don't think anyone did.
I watched this game, Mitch.
I should have said you watched it live, whole thing, all the way.
No. Okay, whoa. By watched this game, I meant I watched the first few minutes, and then when Idaho scored first, I was like, yeah, I'm out of here.
I mean, it was a little bit exciting, Drew Lock throws a pick in his first play of the game. Idaho marches down and scores. Whoa.
Well, that's what I was thinking, and I was thinking, man, I just don't really feel like emotionally ready just to watch Idaho win.
Right.
It didn't end up that way, but yeah.
This was a pleasant surprise of a game for me to go back and watch the game and just watch Missouri light it up. But again, like I said, started off, okay, Idaho has some life, or Missouri is tapping out on the season, basically. But right after that pick and that touchdown, the Tigers put up 34 points in the first quarter, 51 points in the first half. Clint, it continues to baffle me how absolutely electric this offense is against terrible teams.
Yeah.
And against nobody else.
You put you put them up against the worst of the worst. They're great.
Oh, they'll ball out. They'll break records.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. You put I don't know, anybody slightly competent on defense, and it kind of falls apart. But you're right.
So just get this. The Tigers have now put up 140 points in their only 2 wins of the year against the mighty Missouri State and the Idaho Vandals, and 92 points in their 5 losses in between. That's 18.4 points a game in those losses and 70 points per game in the wins. So, I mean, I don't really even know what to do with that, just because of who they've beaten and who they've lost to,
Yeah, that puts them in a really difficult place when you're just trying to be like, this is objectively how good or bad they are.
Right, and I mean, we've seen glimpses of their big playability in bigger games, like they hung with Kentucky, ended up dropping 34-40 in the first quarter and a half of the Georgia game. I mean, they were matched at 21 points. But they just got to start showing up in big games and finishing big games. I mean, it's crazy. Drew Lock can clearly sling it. He's at a school record with the 7 touchdown passes in the opener against Missouri State, and he nearly tied it in this game with 6. He went 23 for 33 on the day with 467 yards. And, you got all these talented receivers. I mean, you got, like, the tight end. I'm going to butcher this name, Albert Okwuegbunam.
Oh, they were saying it a bunch on TV. Oakwood. Yeah, Oakwood. I can't even do it.
But yeah, I mean,
Okwuegbunam. Is that it?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
I'm not gonna try again.
That sounded on the money to me, but maybe he'll write us in. Who knows? I've talked about Jamon Moore when he's on. He caught 11 passes for 174 yards in this game. It's just weird to me. The weirdest thing to me in this game is that you still had 4 different receivers who had a long of 35 yards or more. Like I said, you had Jamon Moore with a ton of receptions. You had a ton of passes, ton of passing touchdowns, but it was a blowout. Missouri only ran the ball 8 fewer times. Excuse me, they ran the ball 8 fewer times than Idaho, even with a huge lead. And Idaho was playing from behind virtually the entire game, and they still ran the ball more than Missouri. That just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, they were even doing all right. They were averaging like 6.1 yards a carry. And they had, Ish Witter scored twice on the ground, but it's just kind of weird. Like, this team is weird to me. I don't understand it. But
yeah, they are weird. They're super weird. They're not good, but they're like weirdly bad.
Yeah, they're in the weirdest way, and they make huge plays. I get that Demaria Crockett got hurt in the Georgia game and is supposed to miss an extended period of time, so maybe you don't have as much run power as you used to, but I don't know, man. Super weird. I will say some props to Missouri, given the fact that Idaho was 6th in the country in pass defense coming into this game. But that includes a schedule thus far of Sacramento State, UNLV, Western Michigan, South Alabama, Louisiana Lafayette, and App State. So you tell me kind of if that is a meaningless stat or not.
It's not necessarily completely meaningless. I mean, obviously App State has talent.
Yeah, I agree.
Louisiana Lafayette has some playmakers on their team, but
you see what I mean.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Like, sure, good enough, but it's not enough for people to be like, wow, Missouri's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly.
Just in regards to the team, there's some talk of them having some pretty poignant meetings coming into this game. You know, Barry Odom urging the team to sort of see the second half of the season as a second season altogether of sorts. But I don't really see that much meaning when all is said and done. And here's sort of why. So since taking over last year, Barry Odom has yet to win a road game. 0 road games. Drew Lock has never posted a winning record since taking over from Matty Mock's departure in 2015. The Tiger defense right now is ranked 112th in the country. The only SEC team that is worse than that is Ole Miss, and they don't really even have a season to begin with. Just for your reference, Arkansas is ranked 84th in total defense on the year. So that's how bad this defense is.
That is nothing short of just eye-opening.
The most amazing thing about this is the offense is ranked 20th in total offense. That's higher than Miami, TCU, Penn State, and wait for it, Georgia.
Well, you know, that has a lot to do with those
Blowout games, right?
It has a lot to do with those 70-pointers.
Which is that's why it makes me feel weird, because I just don't.
That's the magic of statistics.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
In the NCAA.
Yeah.
But again, you know, just adding it all up, not really honing in on anything in particular, because I know these stats are inflated by certain things and matchups and whatnot. But add it all up, you've got a team that relies completely on deep throws, cannot hit enough homers to finish games against good defenses, a defense with some huge issues that has struggled against the pass and the run, which makes it's weird to me, given that Odom, you know, it makes me just think Odom moving from defensive coordinator to head coach was a terrible idea. And a team that's basically looking for a new start in a season that's already a gaping missed opportunity. Pretty much the only positive I see for this team is that they get Drew Lock for another year, but I'm going to have to see some huge changes on defense before I consider Missouri any kind of competitor in the SEC, in the NCAA, period.
Yeah, I think you pretty much got it right on the money there. I mean, yeah, you said home runs. I mean, those big home run passes, those huge 60-yard bombs, those are awesome. They're exciting to watch.
Sure.
And they take skill, but there's a lot that happens in between those 60 yards that you also need. Yeah, those very basic accepted rules of football aside, you're right.
The Tigers face Connecticut on the road next week, quite possibly Barry Odom's easiest road test to date. The Huskies are 3-4, but they beat Temple, which is apparently a big deal. And like I said, they had 70 points put on them by Memphis a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to give Mizzou the benefit of the doubt for the last time with Barry Odom as head coach. I'm taking the Tigers on the road 48-35.
That'll be their first road win.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, if that comes true, that'll be their first road win. You know, Rhett Lashley, head coach of the UConn Huskies, is not a bad head coach.
I agree.
That record 3-4, they play in kind of a stacked conference. I wouldn't discount the Huskies at home.
That's why I've got it, 13 points. I'm thinking maybe Missouri outduels them with a couple of extra homers, but I agree with you. I think there's definitely room for the Huskies to cover that spread.
Yeah, interesting. I like that point differential that you've given. That this might be Missouri's closest game they play all year.
Yeah, you're right. It might be.
All right, well, let's head back over to the West. One of only 2 SEC West games, unless you count the Alabama-Tennessee game, but only 2 true SEC West games this week. I'll go ahead and start with the more exciting one. Let's talk about the LSU Tigers and the Ole Miss Rebels. Mitch.
All right.
Number 24 LSU comes into Oxford looking totally prepared and beat Ole Miss 40-24. And Ole Miss could not have looked more the opposite. I'm going to be entirely honest with you. I'm going to start out with the big news from this game.
Yeah.
We already kind of hit on it a little bit at the beginning. Ole Miss quarterback Shea Patterson is officially done for the season with a non-contact leg injury. There are also rumors kind of milling around the Ole Miss fan base right now that he is looking to transfer out of the program and has been for some while. And I mean, I don't know really what to say to that. I don't know if he just doesn't really see a future there. I mean, he led the conference in total offense, so I don't know exactly what his reasoning is, if that is true. But hope he can rehabilitate himself from that injury and hope he comes back stronger, if it's for Ole Miss or if it's for another school.
Yeah, it's I understand the wanting to stay for this year, sort of. It seems like if he was going to transfer before the season would have been the time to do it, especially now that he's hurt. But yeah, just hoping that he gets some clarity on that and that leg heals up. That's a rough timeline for Shea.
Yeah, and again, these are just rumors.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But it is what I'm seeing right now out of that fan base. But for now, we are looking at backup Jordan Ta'amu. I believe is how you say his name.
Mm-hmm.
I have no clue how to pronounce that. Sorry.
You're good. I think that's it.
He looked not that great. He didn't really look equipped to handle that offense, which is understandable.
Oh, totally.
He's a backup, but that offense moves quick. And they need that general to be like, go, 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 go. Right now, this is what we're running. Whistle's blown, snap the ball. And he didn't really look like he was ready to do that. So we'll have to see how he looks moving forward this season. Meanwhile, Darius Geis and the entire LSU run game just went off in this game.
Geis is back.
Geis went for 276 yards on 22 carries. And the Tigers, they racked up almost 400 yards on the ground. 396 was the final tally there. That's incredible.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, on defense, LSU has 3 big-time interceptions. They get 3 sacks. They totally controlled the Ole Miss offense.
We saw that speed and the just the playmaking. I don't know, man. LSU is interesting.
It's just all around a bad day for Ole Miss at home. Even though they looked good losing, I love those powder blue helmets. Just gotta throw that out there real quick.
I'm with you on that.
Being an Arkansas fan, like you've always had this thing with Ole Miss, but I got to give credit to a good uniform when I see it. Those Ole Miss powder blue helmets, I don't know why y'all don't wear those every single
week. No doubt. I mean, we ragged on Florida's, and just the same, we got to give props when, those are tight.
Yeah, those are so sick. But let's talk about a big one, Mitch. Let's talk about LSU-Alabama.
Huge.
What makes me afraid for Ole Miss, or for LSU, I'm sorry. What makes me afraid for LSU is the fact that they let Ole Miss accumulate 153 yards on the ground.
Yeah, Damian Harris and Bo Scarborough should multiply that by 2, at least.
That is not the run defense you want to show the week before Alabama.
No.
I'm afraid that Alabama is going to cause some serious problems for this front seven for LSU. And guess what I'm about to say about Alabama? Guess what I'm about to say?
Oh, I know it.
If LSU is going to attack them anywhere, do you know where it's going to be?
Special teams.
It's going to be in the special teams. I'm going to say it this week. I'm going to say it next week. I'm going to say it every single week.
2 fumbles on punts this week.
There you go. For the rest of my life, I'm going to say it every week. They muffed 3 punts against Arkansas.
That's unbelievable. That shocked me. I was
if you can get them to screw up on those special teams, and only if you can capitalize on those mistakes, you have some potential to get to them.
No doubt.
But you have to capitalize. You can't get the ball back and screw it up.
No.
This game was a tough one for me to pick because it's like, the LSU-Alabama game always kind of is one of those games.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
It's like the Florida-Georgia game. It's like the Florida-LSU game. But I don't know. This Alabama team is different.
I agree. I'm not sure.
I don't think LSU can do it. I expect Alabama to win this game. But I do expect it to be the biggest fight they've had out of an SEC opponent this year. I'm taking the Tide to win in Tuscaloosa by their closest point differential yet. I'm taking them 21-14. It's going to be a 7-point game.
Wow.
Now, I'm either going to look like a genius or the biggest idiot ever come next week.
It'll be interesting, man. LSU, we've seen it time and time again, no matter what their record, they can just come out and just fight. I think, would your confidence be and this might just be an obvious question, but it's one I feel like I need to ask. Would your confidence be marginally higher if they had not dropped that game to Troy and their only loss was Mississippi State? Albeit they got beat down, but regardless.
Had they not lost to Troy, I would be a lot more confident in LSU. Just because, I mean, that can wreck a team, dude. I mean, obviously it hasn't. They've won after that, but it's still, I mean, it's still a blemish.
Well, I'm curious.
They're still gonna remember that.
I'm still on the side of, did it fuel the fire or did it just sort of happen, you know?
I don't know. What do you think about this game?
I mean, I think that the point total here is almost impossible to speculate. But just based on the fact that other than this potential game, Alabama's biggest test was A&M. That was an 8-point game with a somewhat garbage time A&M touchdown at the end of it. I won't be surprised if this is a one-score game, at least going into the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? I think Alabama's either going to turn on the Jets. It's sort of like I'm kind of thinking, how long can LSU last? Are they going to play 4 quarters? Are they going to play 3? Are they going to play 2.5? But I think one score is reasonable. If I had to guess, though, I'd say Bama maybe tack on another touchdown, just have them win by 2 scores. But I don't know, man. This has been the hard. I've been thinking about it all day, all week. I have no idea.
It's just going to be up to the LSU defense. That's all.
No doubt.
It's you got to stop the run game.
Yeah, and take advantage of any turnovers.
You got to force Jalen Hurts to throw. Yep, you got to take the ball away. We haven't even really talked about the fact this game's in Tuscaloosa. I don't think it matters.
Oh, I don't either.
It hasn't really mattered in years past. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think LSU might even be a team that I mean, they've won 2 of their last 3 on the road in the swamp, and then, I don't know, the Mississippi game was a bit different. But I agree with you. The fact that they allowed so many yards on the ground is extremely troubling, especially given the fact that their red zone run defense is going to have to be on point for them to have a chance in this game. And that's going to be tough.
Well, and they gave up those 153 to Ole Miss, a team that has not been great on the ground. That's what really worries me, but we'll have to see if they can patch it up.
Yeah, man, absolutely. But I think it's going to be a heck of a game. I'm just excited about it, to be honest with you.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move it back over to the East. I'll preview the Ole Miss-Arkansas game here in a little bit.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, just given the fact that we've been talking about Alabama a lot, I'm actually going to go with them second. The Crimson Tide just routed the Vols 45-7. I just want to point out that last year, these two teams faced off in Knoxville. The Tide were 6-0 and number 1. The Vols were 5-1 and number 9. And Tide won 49-10. So you kind of connect the dots on that.
That Tennessee team last year might have been the most overrated team I've ever seen in my life.
I think they were a team with amazing talent that was just poorly coached, man. I mean, that's just my thoughts.
They fell real hard last year when they
fell.
There
is no reason the talent on that team should have put up virtually the exact same numbers in this game, or as the team that played in this game did. I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
And I just think that, I mean, that is more of a reflection of Butch to me than anything. But like I'm saying, this year the Vols traveled unranked to Tuscaloosa to face the yet again number 1 ranked undefeated Tide, and the results were basically the same, just with different yardage numbers. The Tide have now beat the Vols 11 years in a row. The last time the Vols won was in 2006. Eric Ainge was playing quarterback, and Arian Foster was running the football.
Arian Foster.
And I'd like to point out Arian Foster just retired from the NFL last year. So,
man, that dates it right there.
Yeah. Jarrett Gorentano making his second start. God help him with that. Went 9 for 16 for 44 yards and a pick. That is a third as many yards and a touchdown less than backup quarterback Tua, another name, Tagovailoa. I don't know why I've heard it so many times and I can say it, but in the moment I'm like, So many different letters.
It's one of those names that you see coming up in your notes, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa. That's a third, like I said, as many yards and a touchdown less than his stats. He had 134 yards, a touchdown, and a pick 6. But Jalen Hurts went out there and took care of business as usual. Almost 200 yards passing on 13 completions and a touchdown himself.
Which, make no mistake about Tua Tagovailoa, he is incredible.
Oh, no doubt.
He's just as good as Jalen Hurts. They could alternate snaps if they wanted to, and it'd be identical offenses.
I mean, that's that Bama recruiting for you. You find out what you want, and you just get a bunch of kids that fill that persona. But yeah, man. I mean, the Heisman talks are sort of slowly rumbling. Jalen Hurts is sort of in the conversation after the numbers he's been putting up. Guarantano got sacked 4 times. Kind of felt like 8, just given how hard he got hit, especially trying to heave a deep ball right before the half. He just got obliterated.
After you texted me that you hoped that he was okay as far as his health goes, I went back and kind of watched some highlights of this game, and dude got wrecked.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just unfortunate. Like, it didn't even feel fair. But UT continued their trend of getting just mowed over by opposing running backs. They now rank 122nd in rushing defense in the country. And that stat, I don't even think that's inflated by matchup. I mean, they just, they played a lot of great running games, but 272 yards and 4 touchdowns from Alabama on the ground in this game, led by Damian Harris, who had 72 yards himself. UT is allowing 247 yards per game on the ground. That's right behind Vandy and ahead of, Ole Miss.
Yeah, that's a lot of yards per game on the ground.
Can't do that.
Yeah.
John Kelly did his usual thing, low number of carries because they were playing from behind. He only had 12. But he had 63 yards, 5.3 per carry. No other Vol rushed for more than 10 yards or had more than 14 receiving yards, which is telling. I mean, you can figure that out by Guarantano's stat line. But I'd just like to point out, again, like you said, Bama fumbled 3 times in this game, twice on punts. UT didn't fumble at all. They had the pick, but, they kept control of the ball for the most part, especially with those big hits. It's, an accomplishment. UT failed to capitalize on the one fumble they did recover, which put them on the Alabama 20 in the Bama red zone.
Yeah, that's what I was saying when we just talked about that. I
mean,
if they're going to give you the ball,
come on,
you got to Nash, man.
I mean, seriously, they got down to the 5, and then 4th and goal, Guarantano throws a pick, and I was just like, this is tough to watch. Bama, again, like I said, they just outmatched the Vols in every category. They put up 604 total yards to UT's 108. That's just a absolute beatdown. The Bama players were literally disappointed after only putting up 3 scores in the first half, with Jalen Hurts saying, "We really turned it on in the second half with our 24 points." Okay, if that's the way you want to see it.
We're all down here. We're all the big dum-dums down here on this plane of consciousness, right?
Right.
And they're all just, it's 4D chess up there. They're all just on another plane.
Tennessee's longest drive on the day was 30 yards. Lone Vol score, you could call this a highlight. You could call it a disgraceful moment. You can call it whatever you want. Came in the third quarter on a 97-yard pick 6 by Daniel Batuli. UT's first score in the last 12 quarters. Let that sink in.
Can you repeat that for me?
This was the UT's first score in the last 12 quarters.
That's...
After that score, defensive back Rashawn Golden was pretty psyched to have broken that streak, so he gave a gift of 2 nice Christmas turtle doves to the Alabama student section. Just right there.
That's a polite way of saying that.
He got his shopping done early. It's like Ricky Bobby got him at Target. I get that you're frustrated, and I get that you want to make some kind of a statement to Bama. You've just made a big play, and it's like you're sticking it to them even if you're going to lose. But, I mean, that in itself to me shows why the score was what it was. A Bama player would never do that. That would never happen, or you'd be done. You'd be off. You'd be playing JUCO.
Yeah,
Forget it.
your obituary would be in the paper then.
Yeah. I mean, seriously.
Let me just say real quick for any of our listeners who don't know what we're talking about, which I don't know how it is living under a rock, but anyways, so what happened was after this pick six, the defensive back that we're talking about,
Who was just blocking.
Who was just blocking on it, flipped the double bird, I guess I should say, to the Alabama crowd. Not subtly either.
Oh, no. Defiantly.
Full force. Really impressively, actually. Gave it all he had, but I'm seeing a lot of older folks real mad about this, and I'm seeing a lot of younger folks just going, "Does this even matter?"
Right.
Like what? Like at this point, what does it even matter? It's a lost cause at this point.
I think it shows. Maybe this is me taking it too far, but I think it shows. In terms of this season, I mean, what's it going to do? It's not like it's going to cost anybody any points or any wins or anything. Yeah. But it just shows you where the program is at.
It's just the icing on the cake for what we already knew. Yeah,
exactly. And I saw a brutal meme that turned the two birds into an 11 for the last 11 years. And I was just like, even when you think you're making a statement, they'll get you every time.
Whoever did that, good on you, man.
Seriously, good catch. UT, I don't know. It's just rough. I don't even know when I saw that, I mean, like you said, for some people it's like, who cares? And other people it's like, come on. Well, I mean, I agree that in this season, who cares? But in the long term, I mean, come on. Like, that's just sad. But, again, like I said, Bama players, they don't talk trash. They come in quietly, just dominate. And that's just shown so much in there. Even after that pick six, I mean, it was like it didn't even matter. But it was a heck of a play, though, by Batuli, regardless. Again, I talked about, Gorentano having a rough time in the red zone yet again, and Tennessee in general. Just to talk about Bama receiving for a second, I mean, UT's secondary is pretty solid on the whole, but got absolutely no help in this game. 332 yards receiving on 22 catches for Bama. I'd just like to point out, Henry Ruggs, he has 5 catches on the year. Guess how many touchdowns he has?
Is it 5?
It's 5. Every time he catches the ball. Literally, I said that about Callaway. Ruggs is the absolute definition of that. It's insane. Calvin Ridley had a pretty decent game, 82 yards, led the team in receiving yards. Anyway, UT has now lost 8 of its last 11 SEC games. If you needed anything else to sink in, I'll give you one more moment for that to sink in.
But that's not really, I mean, that's not even close to acceptable.
That's awful.
Yeah.
They head to Lexington this week to take on a Kentucky team that got equally manhandled by Mississippi State. 45-7, same score. And I think the Wildcats are going to win. I think it's going to be 20-14 Wildcats.
Yeah, I straight up agree with you. I mean, even though Kentucky just went in and got whooped on by Mississippi State, you're right. This Tennessee team just does not have what it takes. Any fire that was there is now gone, I just think if you're a Tennessee fan at this point, man, just kind of look ahead.
How do you feel? What's your latest take on the groomers?
I have a friend in Knoxville who is kind of not. I mean, she's not close to all that kind of stuff, but she is knowledgeable, and she does listen. And from what I understand on the Tennessee message boards and what she's told me, the groomers are kind of starting to fade. Yeah. Unfortunately. Which is it's perfectly, it makes sense. Groomers are always fleeting. There are flashes of lightning. But wouldn't it just be great if it all kind of faded away and then wham, he's actually the coach?
I was hoping you would say that. Because I'm starting to see as things get quieter, it feels more real. Because the hype feels artificial, but the the quietness is like, and maybe that's just me, again, just over analyzing it. But I'm starting to see some articles about it. Think about it. Think about it, Vols. I don't know. Dude won a Super Bowl. Can't be that
Dude,
bad.
hey, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, no joke.
So there you go.
We talked about it. Bama gets a bye and then hosts LSU. It's just gonna be a good one.
Do they have a bye?
Yeah,
Okay.
I meant to bring that up before, but we were in the heat of talking about it.
No, you're good. Yeah, I just that's totally fine. We can go ahead and preview that Bama LSU game.
Yeah, it deserves 2 weeks of. I mean, I talked about Florida, Georgia last week. Yeah, man, November 4th.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and LSU also has a bye.
Which is
Great because it's like the same thing with this Georgia Florida game, which we'll talk about.
It's funny that they're doing this now with these like top huge
With these bigger rivalry
rivalries.
games.
Yeah,
I love it.
I think it's great too. I mean,
I love it.
Enhances the hype. I'm sure it has an effect on ticket sales. I mean, they're already packed every year, but yeah, it's pretty cool. Everybody comes in fresh. We'll see what the results are from that kind of thing. But yeah, it's gonna be a good one.
Yep. Yes, sirree. All right, well, that horrible segue is now out of the way. Let's go ahead and go back to the West. Oh, we both had really long days, guys. Give us a credit. Give us some breaks here. All right, let's talk about Auburn and Arkansas.
His tone of voice fades slightly.
You know when you're at a party and you suddenly realize it's time to go?
Yeah, actually.
You know the moment I'm talking about.
Oh, no doubt.
Right? I mean, we've all been there. The music has long since quit playing. You've got some girl crying in the corner. Two dudes are talking about starting to throw punches on the porch. And that creepy long hair bearded guy is always trying to bum cigarettes off everybody. Like, that's where this fan base is with this coaching staff at Arkansas. It's time for them to go.
The party's over and it wasn't that fun.
Party's over and it was never that fun to begin with. The wins have long since stopped coming. The O-line is still getting shifted around in Week 8.
The way that this O-line has fallen, the height that it's fallen from is astounding.
We've got a literal giant playing QB, and we still can't keep him from getting hit. We've got a defense that's trying its best, but can't catch a break because it can't get off the field. We've got a head coach that keeps dropping the same old sorry excuses each press conference. And, I think at this point in the season, and I think a lot of fans feel this way, I think that we are in the point of pure hopelessness. That there's nothing for us to hang our hat on. There's no point. If you're an Arkansas fan and you'd like to, please write us in and tell me what the bright spot of this team is right now. If you can tell me the position, if you can tell me the coach, if you can tell me the recruit, if you can tell me anything right now that makes me feel confident at all in this team, then I'll change my mind. But until then, we're at there's no hope right now at all for this team. It's only bad things. It's been an interesting journey with this Bielema coached Arkansas team. I was there when Bielema got his first SEC win as Arkansas head coach. That was the LSU game in 2014 when we beat them in Fayetteville. We shut them out 17-0 and stormed the field. That was my favorite moment ever as a Razorback fan to experience that. And on the flip side, I was there when it all went wrong. I was there last year in Auburn, in Jordan-Hare, when we lost 56-3 to a division team. You can't lose in your division that bad. You just can't do it. And that was where it all went wrong. And I've seen the rise and I've seen the fall, and I can tell you that there's nothing to say that this is good. Everything about this team is bad. We lost our starting running back before the season started. We have since lost our All-American offensive lineman. We've lost our first string senior wide receiver. We've lost our starting quarterback. We've lost our defensive captain and Ryan Pulley. We've lost our freshman star running back, Chase Hayden. And we've lost our sense of caring about this team. The fans have the fans are showing the most apathy I've ever seen out of this fan base in my entire life. The longest running Arkansas football podcast actually just released an episode saying that they are going to call it quits until things change with the football team because it's not fun anymore for them to talk about. Which shout out to the Hog Trough guys if you're listening at all. I think I speak for all the Hog fans when I say that you guys are awesome. You make us laugh each week, and we can't wait for you to come back. But that to me is the surest sign that things are just in a total tailspin right now. And honestly, just as far as this game goes, I'm just going to spare you the stats. It's not even important to talk about. Auburn won 52-20. It was never a contest. I can't point to anything in this game that says we're getting better as a team. I can't point to anything in this game that says Auburn's getting worse. It's just a better team came in and beat a really bad team by a lot of points. The bigger stories from this game is with Auburn. From what I'm seeing, this isn't enough to satiate fans after last week's loss to LSU. Fans are still really angry about that, and beating a terrible Arkansas team isn't going to change anything for them. From what I've seen on Reddit, on Facebook, and from even Auburn fans that I know, they're really starting to reconsider Gus at head coach. And for them, Georgia and Alabama are must-wins. If Malzahn doesn't beat them, a lot of people don't think he should come back to Auburn in 2018. What do you think about that?
I know we've talked about it before. I do think it's going to be one of those things where I started thinking of it as it's sort of like the Les Miles, Mark Richt scenario, but maybe with a few more duds in there. But yeah, man, I agree. I mean, he doesn't really have completely as much of a pedigree and resume to back it up as those guys. He certainly won some big games, had great years. I could see it though. I mean, the writing's kind of on the wall. The fans are unhappy, and they're not going to get happier. Like you said, I don't see them winning out by any stretch. And if they do, then this entire conference is ludicrous.
Yeah, I don't see them getting past Georgia. I don't see them getting past Alabama for sure.
Some crazy stuff has happened in some Georgia-Auburn games.
Yeah.
Just like every rivalry. But I don't know. See, but Auburn to me is the scariest SEC team that with a loss. You know what I mean? To me, they're the most frightening team for anyone to play, just because of the offense. But I mean, I guess Auburn and LSU both, really. I mean, I agree. I personally think, unless they win out, I agree with you that Gus, he's either going to be gone or he's going to be on a super tight leash.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily. I think if they win all their games and lose to just Georgia and Alabama and win their bowl game, I don't think that the administration is going to feel strongly enough to fire him.
Bowl game, that's key.
But I think that fans are definitely going to be pretty worn out.
I agree.
Yeah, and you're obviously closer to that Georgia-Auburn rivalry than me. You've obviously lived it.
I've lived a lot of it.
Yeah, and I think regardless of the outcome, it's going to be a great game this year. But I thought that was just interesting coming from the Auburn fan base that they've really started to kind of get their pitchforks out.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those that you feel like Gus is a safe coach until you start really thinking about it. That's kind of what I'm doing right now, and I'm like, maybe not.
But for Arkansas, the biggest takeaway from this game is that letting Brett Bielema go at the end of the season is looking more and more like an inevitability as each week passes. Most fans have already started speculating which coaches Arkansas is most likely going to go after when he leaves. Leading most of the list right now are, like I said, Mike Norvell from Memphis. He's probably my number one pick right now. I mean, barring like a Mike Leach situation, you know, like realistic picks.
Yeah, sure.
Mike Norvell is probably going to be my number one. Jeff Brom from Purdue, I don't think he's going to come. Surprisingly, Matt Campbell from Iowa State. I think Arkansas is kind of a more high-profile coaching job than Iowa State is, but he is doing some great things down there, and I think the fans love him. I don't really think that he'd leave Iowa State.
You never know.
You do never know. You're right.
You never know what kind of offer is going to get put in front of somebody. I like the Norvell pick because I think that kind of offense and the points on points on points. I mean, of course, points are great regardless, but I mean, it sort of suits Arkansas in the past in their best years. I don't know. I like it. It's something about it just makes me feel good about it. But
that's a safe hire.
Yeah, exactly.
He's had just enough time to kind of get his fingers into the Memphis recruiting grounds. He can help us out there. I don't know if he has any connections to Texas. Maybe a couple of his assistants might have some. Arkansas recruits a lot in Texas.
That's a really good point about him being a little very close.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about the Ole Miss Arkansas game next week. When Arkansas has the ball, it'll be a terrible offense against a terrible defense. When Ole Miss has the ball, it'll be a good offense against an okay defense. We'll have to see how that translates points-wise. Like I said, Shea Patterson has been confirmed done for the season with an injury, and seeing as he led the conference in offensive yards responsible for, that's a huge loss for the Rebels. Ole Miss is arguably the best receiving core in the country, in my opinion, barring Oklahoma State. They've got some great receivers in Oklahoma State. Yeah. But look at Ole Miss's numbers, man. A.J. Brown, DeMarcus Lodge, those guys are going crazy every week. But without their starting QB, are they going to be as effective?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
That's why I'm calling Arkansas in this game. I mean, sure, equally depleted teams in different ways, but you are going up against, I mean, neither team has their starting quarterback. This is a weird, it's going to be a weird couple of weeks.
It's so funny that you take Arkansas over the Rebels. It's just, I don't see it, man. I'm taking Ole Miss over the Hogs.
I think
Arkansas is really, really bad. Really bad.
I think those playmakers, if they can just get the ball in their hands on Ole Miss's side, I think they got it no problem. But I don't know. This is great practice for Swag Newton.
Swag? Is that what you're calling him nowadays?
I guess that's just my default.
Swag Newton. Oh, I don't want to call him Swag Kelly.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't. I mean, oh gosh.
Hence Swag Newton.
Hey, Chad Kelly, wherever you are, you suck, man.
Oh, I mean, he did some bad stuff.
Yeah, he did some horrible things.
Really bad.
It just got it. Yeah, you're a terrible dude, man. If you're listening, you're a bad guy. But really though, I don't think Arkansas has the willpower or coaching to win a conference game on the road. I just don't. And even in spite of Ole Miss's backup quarterback playing in this game, I'm taking Ole Miss 35-27.
Okay, I think that's a respectable.
I think it's gotten so bad, Mitch, that we're going to lose to a team with no postseason and an interim head coach.
Not great.
Let's finish out with the last East game, man.
Yeah, man. All right, this is a game that I actually went to, the Mississippi State-Kentucky game. Exact same score as the Bama-Tennessee game, 45-7, Mississippi State. It was a lot of fun, man. Mississippi State's a really nice place. Everyone was really nice, super good. I mean, obviously they were winning like crazy, so they had reason to be in a good mood. But everyone was super respectful. The cowbells are super loud. It's pretty rough at first. It's sort of like in the game, walking up to the game, you got your cowbell. I had mine. I borrowed one from my sister-in-law, and I was like, this is super fun. Like, I could just wang this cowbell anytime I want. And then you get in the game, and you're like, oh, geez, I don't think I can handle this. It's so loud.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear your first-person perspective. Every time I've always watched a Mississippi State game on TV, it's even been like, whoa, those are loud.
They're loud.
On the broadcast audio, it's loud.
It has this weird effect where you get in, first of all, it's just sheer noise, and you're like, wow, that's really rough. And then you start to kind of get used to it. And then if you're slinging your cowbell and ringing it and with everybody, you kind of forget about it being loud. And then if you don't do it, like I didn't do it for a couple of plays or for a little while, and I was just like, man, this is so loud. But it's kind of funny. It gets quiet when the Bulldogs are on offense, and as the game goes on, it's sort of, if it's not super close, when it sort of dies down. But anyway, it was a super fun game. Not for Kentucky. They looked tired, sluggish, and just straight up flat from warm-ups onward. I mean, I get it. They've had some tough games, and they were on the road. But this game was huge for Kentucky, and they didn't play like it at all. At all. This performance, to me, takes their record and doesn't matter to me. They got demolished in this game. It was tied 7-7 halfway through the second quarter after a super weird Steven Johnson touchdown. He was running, and he dove for the pylon, got hit, fumbled it, and then Blake Bone recovered it in the end zone. It was sort of like a weird accidental forward pitch. And they had it tied up, and then Mississippi State scored 38 unanswered points.
Yeah, that's rough for Kentucky, who up until this point has always looked at the very least competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking as well. It's just like, hey, this should be if it's a 2-score game, I get it, whatever. But an absolute blowout, come on. I mean, this team was in second place in the East coming into this game. Basically control their own destiny in a weird scenario. They have a chance to be in the SEC title game. Not anymore. Whether it was on the ground or through the air, Mississippi State just made it happen all day. All of it revolving around Nick Fitzgerald. We've just seen if teams just key in and are able to put pressure on Nick Fitzgerald, hit him a couple times, and just get him pinned down early, this team is pretty beatable. They can take control of games against this team. But if he gets going early and the defense has the ability to hang tough and make some plays, I mean, they can just dominate. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is really crazy how Mullen coaches that offense and how they key off of Nick Fitzgerald so much that if you can shut the Nick Fitzgerald aspect of that offense down, they don't have an offense.
Yeah, I mean, it's ride or die on Nick Fitzgerald, and he was riding in this game. He roasted the Wildcats all day long on the ground, 12 carries for 115 yards, 9.6 a carry. Didn't even play the full game, mind you, so it's like half a game. 2 scores, another 155 yards, and a touchdown through the air. He went out for one play because his helmet came off, and back up, Keaton, another one. It's names for me. It's Keaton.
Keaton is the way it's said, yeah.
Keaton Thompson comes in.
I had trouble with that one the very first episode of this show, and I was like, I've since learned it is Keaton.
That A in there is like a whoa.
Yeah.
But he came in for one play just to replace him, scores immediately, rushing touchdown himself. I heard some commentators talking about it. It's like, you have Dak come in and just sort of set the blueprint for what the Mississippi State quarterback should look like. They replaced him with Nick Fitzgerald, similar skill set. Keaton Thompson's coming right afterward. I mean, this team, at least with Mullen, I've heard some talk about Dan Mullen moving. Forget that.
He ain't going. He's not going anywhere.
He is rooted. This team, they know what works, and they're just fine-tuning
He would be he's a way smarter guy than me, I'm sure. He knows what he's doing, but it would be so stupid for him to go.
Oh, unbelievably. I completely agree.
He has created, we said it, you remember at the very first episode of the show, to harken back to that, we talked about how he's built consistency in a historically inconsistent program.
Absolutely.
If he were to leave, he'd be leaving all that behind. He could solidify himself as the greatest coach in Mississippi State history.
Oh yeah,
he's really close to doing that.
He's their guy. I mean, it's so true. The difference is now we're talking about this team's lost a couple because like Nick Fitzgerald hasn't been extremely consistent. We used to talk about this team is so inconsistent. They're probably going to win like 4 games this year and then maybe 7 next year, and that'll be a win. So yeah, I completely agree. I think it's just total rumors. But anyway, they balled out. Steven Johnson got pulled late for Drew Barker. He threw a pair of picks in this game, including an 84-yard pick six. He had 117 passing yards on the day and led the team in rushing, 6 carries for 54 yards. So that should tell you a lot. Barker didn't do much. I don't know if it was just because Steven Johnson got hit a pretty good bit or what, but he wasn't getting it done. They weren't getting it done. And yeah, that's basically it. Shout out to Todd Grantham for absolutely turning Mississippi State's defense around. Maybe he coached good defenses at Georgia, but maybe this is sort of his spot, sort of like Mullen. Mississippi State before Grantham was ranked 110th in total defense, and now they're number 8.
Yeah, that's a great turnaround, and that's making that Alabama game look a lot more interesting too.
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, they were solid in this game. They put a lot of pressure on Johnson to make throws, and defensive backs were cleaning up tackles, and you can tell that they've practiced against mobile quarterbacks a lot with Keaton and Nick in practice. But yeah, I completely agree. I think that they have one of the most interesting remaining schedules in the conference, with Texas A&M, Bama, Arkansas, and Ole Miss left on the horizon. That's two teams that have the potential. Well, Bama, and then a Texas A&M team that can be red hot and make plays. It's going to be crazy. I mean, we'll see. Everything about this Texas A&M game is going to show us what they can do against Bama. I'm calling a super close one with Mississippi State edging it out. Some might call it an upset against A&M next week, 28-27.
I agree with you 100%, and I hate to agree with you. No, I don't think I would call it an upset at all. I think Mississippi State's a better football team.
More complete.
Looking at their schedule at Texas A&M, I think they're going to win next week as well. Play at Alabama, or they play
hosting Bama. How about that?
That I think is still going to be a loss. I think it's going to be an interesting game. Maybe it'll be the lowest point total that Alabama will put up. Maybe not. But they're going to beat Arkansas, and they're going to beat Ole Miss. They're going to finish 3-1, and that'll put them at 9-3. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. That is accurate.
And that is a stellar season for them.
And everybody and their brother is going to compare whatever happens in this Mississippi State-Bama game to the Georgia-Mississippi State game. To me, two totally different contexts. I mean, Mississippi State had just come off, it was just in a rough stretch for them, and like we said, some inconsistencies with Fitzgerald and just getting shut down in that game, in the Auburn game. But I think it's going to be fascinating. I think it's going to be a super close one, super thrilling game. I've already talked about Kentucky-Tennessee. I think that this game exposed and highlighted the instability of Kentucky right now. I think that they'll be mad enough and hyped enough to compete with the Vols, and I'm saying they're going to win again, 20-14. You think if they lose this game and drop a couple more, I mean, are we in Stoops leaving territory yet?
They have to play really bad, because I think he's done a lot to help his case this year. The fact that he's still at Kentucky is amazing. I thought we were in Stoops leaving Kentucky territory last season. Mm-hmm. But he's still there. He's still hanging around. They still have Louisville to play, mm-hmm. which obviously isn't the same team that they were last year, but they're still a good team.
Oh yeah.
They have, like you said, Tennessee to play. I think that they're going to have to really, really fall out. I think Stoops comes back. I think the administration gives him another year. But that's barring just complete disaster in Lexington.
In my opinion, we've got two teams that are opposites in terms of rank of standings right now in Missouri and Kentucky. But I feel like with Barry Odom and with Stoops, while they're different, I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if either we end up with both of them still coaching next year or both of them gone. You know what I mean? But yeah, crazy stuff would have to happen to Kentucky for Stoops to go.
I'll be way more surprised if Odom is still there than I would be if Stoops is still there.
Let's say Kentucky all but tanks and loses 3 more games, and Missouri wins out. What do we even? I don't even know what I'm getting into here.
What has happened in this universe that you're creating that's caused this outcome?
Well, Missouri couldn't win out. They got Florida, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Arkansas. But again, I don't even know why that matters. But
if Missouri beats Florida, I'm quitting this podcast.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, anyway, just moving real quick to teams that are on bye. Vandy travels to Columbia to face South Carolina next week. We agreed, over the weekend that it's tough to confidently call South Carolina a good team so far this year. And with, injuries to guys like Rico Dowdle and Debo Samuel, I'm going to call Vandy in this one. I'm going to say, if you want to call it an upset, 24-21, I think Shermer outduels Bentley in this one and just gets it done.
Yeah, I can't remember I can't remember who I was talking to or what show I was listening to, but somebody said that they'd like to see NC State and Missouri both have a second shot at South Carolina without Debo Samuel.
Ooh, that's really interesting.
And I thought that was a great point because you go back and you look at the stat lines from those games, and it was the Debo Samuel show in both of those games.
He was their Saquon.
And look, we've seen that Missouri obviously isn't a great team still, but we've seen that NC State is a phenomenal team.
Oh, no doubt.
And I think given a second chance and given another opportunity maybe without Debo, I think we'd have a lot different outcome than the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
but all that is a complete moot point. I just thought it was an interesting situation.
Yeah, I think we'll learn a lot in this Vandy game. But yeah, I'm calling Vandy. Also, as mentioned, it's Georgia-Florida week.
It is.
The RV City is all set up in Jacksonville, and it should be a good one because it's never a bad one. Depends on whose side you're on. But Florida players doing a little bit of talking right now. Wide receiver Josh Hammond coming out saying they may be the number 3 team, but they can't beat Florida. Definitively. Can't beat Florida. That's making a definitive statement. Safety Chauncey Gardner coming out talking about Fromm, saying he's throwing simple passes. I get it. Anybody can throw a slant. Can you throw a slant?
That depends on how fast my receiver's running.
Florida has won the last 3 straight in this series. Georgia is a 2-touchdown favorite in this one. I know I've said it a lot, which terrifies me, by the way. I know I've said it a lot this year, but any team history, any records, any stats, they're gone. Forget it. Coming into this game. Expect nothing. Fear everything. Florida is virtually playing with nothing to lose at this point, and Georgia has absolutely everything to lose, which is a frightening combination or an exciting one. Depends on who you are. Again, Florida has won 21 of the last 27 of these games. Since 2008, Florida's won 3 straight, Georgia's won 3 straight, and then Florida's won the last 3. So it's anybody's guess.
So it's Georgia's turn.
You would think that, but we will see.
All I'm going to say about this game is I'm going to keep my thumb on the trash talking. Because I don't know, man. I get it. It's a rivalry and it's fun. Like I like it when things kind of get a little chippy. But you're right. It is a rivalry game, and you're so much more connected to this rivalry than I am. But I don't even think it's going to be close. But that's just me.
Hey, I mean, you have the benefit of being less connected to it emotionally and can sort of see the writing on the wall for who the teams are. I'm straight up, as a Georgia fan, scared to say anything about this game, really, other than that it's going to, no one knows what's going to happen.
Well, buddy, football season's already over for me. So regardless of what happens in this game, I'll come over and pop bottles with you.
Well, there you go. I'm probably going to need it either way. But yeah, man, we'll see. Just to look at the standings real quick. South Carolina moving into second place with the Kentucky loss. Florida in third. That means big things as far as these matchups go this week. Could change a lot. Of course, it's Alabama, Auburn, LSU over in the West. A lot remains to be seen. The ranked teams, Bama's still 1. Georgia's number 3. Auburn's number 19. LSU number 23. I feel like we had a little down week. We had the buys are in full effect, and I feel like we're just about to get launched into a huge gauntlet of crazy games. But maybe that's just my optimism.
Well, I did say that this was my favorite part of the college football season, and there's a reason for that.
No doubt. It's structured that way.
All right. Well, before we finish up here, let's go ahead and get to who took the biggest L.
Oh, always.
Alrighty, and this week, who took the biggest L is everybody. Because these games were terrible. We all are worse off for having experienced them.
Just for to put a dog in there, I think I'm gonna go Kentucky.
I think that's probably accurate. I mean, everyone expected Tennessee to lose. Everyone expected Missouri to beat Idaho, I guess. Everybody expected Arkansas to lose to Auburn. The Ole Miss loss, yeah, I guess. Everyone kind of was picking LSU, and it wasn't necessarily a huge blowout. I definitely think with the games of this week, it's definitely Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Going in there with almost equal records and a lot to play for, definitely.
Exactly. So yeah, tough loss for the Wildcats. We'll see what they can do. But anyway, man, yeah, it was an interesting week just in terms of looking ahead and seeing some teams just dominate. But yeah, man, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, real quickly, just to kind of talk about some other non-college football related topics. Who you got in the World Series, man?
Oh, well, Astros are my AL team because my in-laws and my wife are from Houston and big fans. So we were watching after the Mississippi State game. We were watching the Game 7 of the ALCS, and all Astros on this end. What about you?
I'm right there with you, man. I got to go Astros. I grew up a Cardinals fan. My family was always big Cardinals fans. We grew up in East Arkansas, and St. Louis isn't too far away.
Yeah.
So it was always fun to watch those teams growing up. And so anything but the Dodgers winning would please me. And you know what? Also, everything that happened to Houston with the flooding and the hurricanes and everything, it would be so awesome to see them win.
No doubt.
The city just deserves that.
They do, and the team's been playing so hard, and they've had such a great record, and so many fun players to watch. And I think it's going to be. As far as just sheer who's going to win, I mean, the Dodgers have been on fire, and the Astros starting pitching has been crazy good with Verlander coming on board. So, yeah, man, it's going to be an interesting one, but I'm all Astros on this end.
All right. Well, got anything to add before we say goodbye?
Not particularly. I'm going to have a lot to add after this weekend, that's for sure.
Hopefully we'll have a nice fire. Well, not a fiery in a bad way, but just a fiery in a good way. Episode for you next week. We thank you guys so much for listening as always. Write into us at askthebottlecast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Bottlecast. Listen to us on iTunes and SoundCloud. Go ahead and leave us a rating on iTunes. Leave us some comments on SoundCloud. Tell us you like our bumping tracks. Or you hate our tracks. And my name is Clint Childers. His name is Mitch Davis, the Georgia Peach.
You know it.
We'll see you next week, guys.